Now is the time to live life inspired. You're listening to Carrie Pena Reports. Hi, everyone. I'm Carrie Pena. Thank you so much for jumping in on this episode of Carrie Pena Reports. On this show, we share stories that are inspirational, but every once in a while, to get to that inspiration, we have to go through some pain.
Yeah.
And Lisa Moore is in studio with me. She is a well-known makeup artist and stylist based in the Phoenix area. Lisa, thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Now, we're going to share your story with the audience. It is an incredibly emotional story.
Yes.
And as I understand it, this is one of the first times or the first time that you've sat down to share the story in depth.
It's the first time. You're the only person that I would talk to about it. So
thank you for honoring me and for sharing the story. We're going to get through this together. There are several reasons why you wanted to come in today, and it's a very difficult story for you. But you want to inspire people because you have survived something truly horrific, and there's different layers to this.
Yes.
So let me take people through your story. Okay. Your mom went missing on April 6th, 2017. Mm-hmm. And your mom was a recovering addict,
Yes.
Drugs, alcohol, and pills. Talk a little bit about your mom's addiction issues and your life growing up.
Sure. Ever since I can remember as a young girl, my mother was always drunk, passed out, needles. I mean, I saw every type of drug, I've had to call 911, because I couldn't wake her up as a young girl. And I was in and out of her home, taken away, given back, taken away, given it back. And I was always her caregiver. She always called me her angel because I was always trying to save her. And I, even at a young age, would dump out half her alcohol and fill it with water and shake it, hoping she wouldn't get as, drunk. And I don't even know how I learned that, to be honest with you. Maybe I saw it on TV. But growing up, we had a very strange relationship because I loved her and wanted to help her, but I was constantly having to go somewhere else because she couldn't take care of me.
Even from a very young age?
Yeah.
So how young were you when you started identifying that this was
behavior?
What was going on?
After she divorced my stepfather, I believe I was around 8 or 9, and she started dating another male. And that's when she started partying. And, every weekend, my house on the corner, I remember, was the party. There would be all these men there, drunk, and women. And I remember one day I was walking down the street and had a red Solo cup with beer. Didn't know what it was, drinking it. And one of my neighbor's friends called CPS because they saw that my sister and I were drinking beer out of a red Solo cup.
You didn't even know what you were drinking?
I didn't even know what I was drinking.
Wow.
I was just so young. And after that, when I got taken away, I was living with someone that I didn't know briefly. My mom went into rehab and then went back to her, and it was so confusing. And, I found out that my stepdad wasn't my dad. I had a different dad. So I even went and lived with him for a few years. But the whole time I was there, or a few months, not a few years, the whole time I was there, I was worried about my mother the whole time. He said he couldn't keep me because I was constantly like, what's my mom doing? I hope she's okay. I spent my whole life growing up worried about her well-being, who she was surrounded by, and trying to help her. And nothing I did could help her.
What kind of person was she outside of the addiction?
Outside of the addiction, she was a loving mom. She had a hard time communicating, expressing herself with love because I think she had so much guilt. And what's one thing that I wish I would have known before everything happened, like how she truly felt, because she couldn't express herself. I knew she loved me and I knew she cared, but I didn't know why she was the way she was. And it wasn't until some things I learned after she passed, to be honest with you, of why she was the way she was. I knew she was burned as a child really young by her mother, my grandmother, on accident. So she always had issues. My mom never had a job. She had no education. She never learned to drive. So she was always relying on men, and she was in relationship after relationship. And I had these men constantly coming in and out of my life because of my mom, abusive, physically, mentally, sexually. I went through all of that with my mother and the men that she chose to have in her life. So it just came to a point to where she couldn't take care of me anymore. She didn't know how to take care of me because I was getting older. I was vocalizing my opinions. And then something happened to me when she left me with a stranger one time while she wanted to go party. I was sexually assaulted by a man who was 50, had to go through the whole court process. And after that, she couldn't take care of me anymore. She didn't know what to do. I think she felt so guilty because she was allowing these behaviors to happen, and she didn't want to, she didn't know how to handle it. So my grandmother took me in. And at the time I was in California, my grandmother met my mom halfway, and I lived with my grandmother from that point on. And my grandmother, I'm so grateful, took me in. So I ended up in a group home or somewhere else. And I lived with her until I was about 15. And at that age, I wanted to have a relationship with my mom. I missed her. I wanted to try. My younger sister decided to live with my mom again, and I wanted a relationship with her. And it didn't last very long. I lived there. She had another child, my youngest brother, lots of drugs, lots of fighting, just unhealthy. And I just couldn't do it anymore. I'd sleep at my high school so I didn't have to go home.
You'd sleep at the high school?
Yeah, I'd sleep at my high school so I didn't have to go home. She wouldn't even know I didn't come home. And I started dating, who became my husband, my ex-husband, when I was 15. His family took me in when I was 16. I went through the emancipation process and became a legal adult at that age.
And you managed to go out and start living a life that turned into a very successful life. I mean, you are extremely well-known, incredibly talented makeup artist, stylist, business owner. You work for a major department store. Yeah. How were you able to put some of the blocks of your life together with such a difficult childhood?
Yeah, I always say I had guardian angels, because someone and somewhere I had a glimpse of what normalcy could be, or something. I don't know who showed me, but I just remember at a young age not wanting to have that life. I knew at a young age I wanted to be a mother, and a good one, and give my kids everything that I didn't have. I knew that I wanted to be married. I knew I wanted to have a stability. Like, stability is so important to me to this day. And that's why I'm so independent and strong. So a little too strong-headed sometimes. But as my fiance will tell you. So I just remember being really young and knowing that's not the life I wanted to have. And I wanted to break the cycle. And it was always something in me, that I knew. When I was 15 or 16, I didn't know what my life was. I didn't know what love was. I didn't know I would have the future that I have at that age. I think it wasn't until, in my 20s, my young 20s, I started feeling more confident about myself. I got asked to be a makeup artist, and I was like, no, I don't know what I'm doing. You're crazy. Needless to say, I started doing it, obviously, and I fell in love with it. And then it became this passion of making women feel good about themselves and seeing women who are struggling with abuse, physical, mental, emotional. I could tell, I knew the signs. And for me to be able to make them feel beautiful in a moment made me feel so grateful. And then it turned into being a part of their wedding day. Now I get to be a part of all these weddings on their most memorable day of their life, hopefully.
So much more than makeup.
So it's so much more than makeup to me. It's really about being there emotionally for someone and helping them feel their best. Like, I'm a very emotional person. I can connect with people, I feel, pretty instantly without even knowing them. Like, I'll be crying at someone's wedding more than the family members. And people are like, you must be so close to the bride. I'm like, I'm just the makeup artist. Because I usually get invited to stay afterwards, because you build a friendship and a relationship. And I'm just always been someone who likes to get to know people, hear their stories, because I have so much to share. And I know I'm not alone. And if I can relate to women especially, and that's why I try to do everything that I do in the community now. I couldn't help my mother. I've lost 2 brothers, all to addictions and different things, suicide in my family. Like, I don't have any normalcy in my family life. My daughters didn't meet their grandmother until she was in the hospital about to pass away from an overdose. And I took them because they never met her. They didn't know why they didn't have a grandmother in their life. And my job was to protect them. They were my everything. And I took them because I wanted them to see what that looked like, so that it would put some mental vision of why I don't drink, why I don't party, why I don't allow them to go stay the night at someone's house if I don't know the parents very well, like all the reasons why I'm so protective.
So rather than allowing your childhood to take you down, you use that as a frame of reference for what you didn't want in your own life. That's pretty powerful.
Thank you.
One of the things we wanted to talk about today is sort of how you've built your health and well-being despite going through a very public news story about your mom's disappearance. So as I mentioned off the top of the show, your mom went missing on April 6th of 2017. And this was a really painful time because you knew something was wrong and all you were told was that she suddenly had disappeared.
Yeah, I was literally at one of my best friend's bridal showers, and I had 2 missed phone calls. And I will leave out, more details, but the people who called said that she left and never came home over the weekend after going on a date. I did know my mom was on some dating sites. She didn't talk about her dates with me. She didn't tell me she was actually going on any. And, these calls were like, she never came home. And instantly in my heart and my gut, I knew that something was really wrong. And it was about 2 days where I hadn't heard from her, which wasn't normal either. She was getting ready to have heart surgery and she had a hole in her heart. And I had to take the time off from work to help her. I'm her power of attorney medically as well. Because
was she getting better at this time in terms of her addictions?
Addictions, I thought so. But I found out later, not the case, based on receipts and things. She was still drinking and had over 100 different types of pills that she was popping and taking that I found in her apartment later. But, she was a very good hider. She was I always thought I would know if she was still drinking, but the last receipt of the last thing she bought was alcohol. And she knew she couldn't drink before her surgery. And this surgery, they kept postponing because she was so weak. Her organs and her body was very weak from all the years of abuse. And our last conversation was she was scared to have the surgery, very scared. And in fact, she said it was the first time in her life she was afraid to die because she spent her whole life self-harming herself with drugs, alcohol, abuse, and allowing these things to happen to her, surrounding herself by horrible, negative, abusive people. No matter what I did, I couldn't get her out of that. That was just her life, and that was her zone, and that's what she knew. And I had to separate myself from that as much as I could. So when they were like, she's gone, she never came home, I didn't believe it. I had to wait a certain amount of time before I could file a missing person report because she's an adult. I contacted everybody she knew. She had a lot of different sponsors, different halfway houses she's been in, a lot of women who she's become friends with through all these years of getting sober, and nobody had heard from her. Nobody knew where she was. She also left her dog, who she loved more than any of her children, which was she would never leave her dog.
That was a sign to you.
It was a huge, I was like,
you felt that she had been killed.
I knew it right away she was gone. And I told them that something happened, and they're like, they said she just went away. She's dating. The hard part and what I wanted to share is when someone goes missing, you have no control. I can't get her cell phone records. I can't get her bank records. Everything I was trying to do was legally, you can't do that. You can't open her mail. It's so when someone goes missing and you don't know what to do or where to start, you have to trust the process and the authorities. And at the same time, you have everybody judging you.
So let's talk about that, because that's one of the things that really struck me along the way when you shared this story with me privately. You were told your mom went missing and there was not a lot you could do. There was quite a bit of media coverage. Yeah. And at one point you were at work. Yeah. Again, you're a makeup artist, so you're done up. Yeah. And you received a phone call from the police saying that one of the news stations wanted to interview you and that it would be helpful in the investigation if you went out and did this interview. This was during your work hours. Yeah. So you went out to go do this interview. Yeah. And then what happened?
I wasn't expecting to be interviewed. I was getting ready to host an event in my store with over 100 women teaching fall makeup trends. So I was wearing red lipstick. That's what we wear in the fall a lot. And I had a black dress on, nothing showy by any means. And I remember the detective saying, this is really important to the investigation. We found something and we need you to do this story tonight because it could help. And so in my heart, I'm like, what did they find? And I'm obviously going to do whatever it is. I wasn't thinking about how I looked. I didn't even look at myself in the mirror before I walked out the door. Fox 10 was waiting outside for me. And standing on the corner, everybody's driving by watching. I'm answering the questions. Felt like I was being interrogated more than I should have felt. And, I'm crying. I have to go back into my store. I'm like a mess. And I'm like, oh my God, I have red lipstick on. I hope, I just knew. I was like, I just know people are going to think I got dressed up on TV. I was just like, I wish I would have had time to wipe it off. So I have to fix my face, go upstairs, take pictures, schmooze, act like nothing's wrong, talk about fashion and beauty. And I get in my car. And because they used my full name, all people have to do is Google me. I'm a business owner. I have a lot of different social media platforms. I had thousands of messages from everyone saying horrible things. I had women coming at me, calling me a whore, a slut, saying I looked expensive, that they should check my bank account, calling me a liar. And then worse, I had men telling me how hot I was, how hot my mom was, what they want to do to me, what maybe happened to her. And then I had everybody telling me what to do. Have you done this? Have you done this? Why haven't you done this? Like questioning everything. And I'm like, you don't think I've tried everything? They don't think about when you're going through this, you're in shock, you're in denial, and you don't have the control over everything. It's not like the movies and TV shows that we watch. It's not that easy.
I wanted to share this part of your story, and I know it's so painful, but you also wanted to share this part of your story, and for a reason, for multiple reasons.
Right. I want people to think about their actions and what they say. Like my youngest daughter was literally walking home from school, and someone I know and care about, and I know she didn't mean anything by it because she's the mother of one of my daughter's friends. And my daughter was walking home, and my daughters were struggling because they had kids asking them at school. So I volunteered in their classrooms. Their friends knew who I was. So did their parents. They see me on TV, usually teaching beauty and makeup segments or coming to me for makeovers. And one woman thought it was a good idea to hand my daughter a newspaper article with my mom's picture on it saying, hey, give this to your mom. Stopped her while she's walking home from school. And in that article, there were things that I didn't share with my daughters to protect them. I didn't tell them everything initially because I didn't want to put so much fear in them. I wanted them to still live their life, and I knew how it was going to affect them emotionally. And I had to stay as strong as I could. Whenever the news stations were at my house, I did it while they were at school. I didn't want them to see me hurting and suffering because I knew it would affect them. And now it does. It's put fear in them of losing me. It's put fear in them of seeing how I was attacked, and people constantly ask them questions. We'll be at Fry's, the dentist. Like, you'd be surprised how many people just bluntly ask you, did they find your mom? Do you know what happened to your mom? Did they hold anybody accountable? Well, why haven't you done this? Why haven't you done that? And it's like, they don't get it. And they don't get how impersonal and how attacking it feels versus I just want someone to be like, are you okay?
Are you okay?
Are you okay?
Yes.
Do you need anything? What can I do to help you?
What did this do to you inside? On one hand, you're trying to stay strong, especially as a mother.
Yeah.
But on the other side, you are falling apart emotionally. What did you do to continue finding strength in that moment?
I literally just dived myself into work and even got more involved in the community. I found every charity I could that I could help. I started working with women's shelters because I had to look for her in women's shelters when she was missing. And I know a lot of people who work within the communities and the centers, thankfully, and were inviting, and I'd go in and talk to the women there and tell them my mom's story. And if I could get one person from going back to their abuser, then it makes me feel good. I couldn't help my mom. So my way of getting through it is by helping other people. I work with Make-A-Wish and help grant wishes with kids who are sick. And I try to do everything I can with women, whether it be, shelters, communities, all the events that I support, because it makes me feel good. So I surrounded myself with women like you who are really strong and give back, and just try to build myself up that way by empowering myself, by being around other women who are empowering versus the one who want to tear me down all the time and judge me.
And you are an incredibly positive person despite what you have been through.
Thank you.
And that sometimes means that you have to focus on the good people, because I always believe there are many, many more good people than there are bad.
Yeah.
But was that a conscious effort that you had to make? Because when you are under attack and you're the victim, that's incredibly
it's hard.
Painful.
It's very painful. I really realized I know people say it's not who your true friends are and who really care about you as a person, as a human, as a mother, and as a friend who checked in on you. And I know we're talking a lot about all the negative things that happened, but there were a lot of positive. I had clients showing up, bringing me bottles of wine, even though they didn't know I really drink. So I always had a gift to give someone. Food, gift cards, so I could take my daughters to movies, like little, very thoughtful, or just even a handwritten note, just a text, I'm thinking of you. I got one today from a dear friend who I told her I was speaking to you today, and just, I'm thinking of you with a heart. That means the world to me. My daughters both said, love you, Mom, good luck. Those are things that mean the most to me than, the persona of everything else, the glitz and the glam and the events and the ball gown. Well, I bought my ticket to that event. Yeah. I'm supporting that charity. Yeah. I'm giving back my own time because I care. I'm doing it for the right reasons, not because of, what people perceive because of what they see on social media.
So you ended up unfortunately finding out that your instincts turned out to be true.
Yeah.
And that your mom had, in fact, been murdered.
Yeah.
How did you find that out?
Gosh. I was getting ready for work, and the investigator called me and told me they had something really important to tell me. And I knew, a lot of time had went by. I knew that they were going into her apartment to do forensics, but they had to wait till the roommate and someone else she was living with moved out because I couldn't get a court order because there wasn't enough proof, evidence to get them to go in sooner, even though I tried multiple times. And they were able to go in and do forensics after they moved out. And I know forensics takes a while to get back, but they told me that that they went in and that there was no way she had survived with what DNA of hers they found. They just told me that her DNA was everywhere. There was a major struggle and it ended. They basically said she bled out in her roommate's closet. And that they don't have her remains and they don't have enough evidence to hold anybody accountable.
That's a really painful thing to have to live with.
Mm-hmm.
When did you receive that news?
It was, I want to say it was early December, maybe late November. So she had been gone about 8 months. So I spent 8 months trying to figure out who, what, when, where, why. And listening to the investigators, doing everything I was asked to do, things that I was super uncomfortable with having them do, being on the TV, having news stations at my house, at work, being in on newspaper articles and being everybody attacking me. It was just a lot. So once I found out, then everybody wanted to know what happened and what's next. And I couldn't share it. It's still an open investigation. She's still, even though she's passed and deceased, there's a certain amount of time that has to go on before it can be legal. And without her remains and proof, I'm like in a holding space. There's nothing I can do. It's a cold case. I have to pray that someone gets a guilty conscience.
And share some information.
And I pray every day that will happen. I pray that person or persons will come forward or say the right thing to the right person who will come forward. And I hope that day comes so I can have that closure for her. She deserves that.
And you deserve that.
Yeah. So I feel like I'm constantly waiting for a call to find out what happened. But I'm trying not to focus on that. I'm trying to focus on my own health, mentally, physically, emotionally, and being present for my family and my daughters who need me more than anything. And I just staying busy, by helping others. It's really, truly.
That to me is really remarkable, that how you were able to find strength is in helping others. And you weren't able to help your mom, and that was an unfair task to place on your shoulders as a young girl anyways. But now as an adult, a successful woman who people look up to, you realize you do have a platform.
Yeah.
And you're trying to use that platform for good.
I am. I'm grateful. I have so many women and men who have become good friends and a good support system because I've surrounded myself with people that way in the last few years, more so than ever. And, I'm grateful that I have the opportunity to have that platform. I go to junior highs and high schools now and talk to young girls about the harms of social media, the dangers, not holding themselves to the standards of what they think the beauty industry is, and hoping to make them feel more confident, not because I didn't have that growing up. We didn't have that growing up. And the bullying, I try to do as much anti-bullying as I can. Both of my daughters went through it through high school, and one of mine still is. And it's just the most awful thing. And so I'm trying to give back and help as much as I can. I think the hardest part now, when you ask me, is if I don't talk about it, people are like, do you still care? Don't you care about your mom? Why haven't you hired lawyers? Why haven't you done this? But if I do talk about it, I get the opposite. Get over it. Move on.
But as I've told you when we've spoken, it's your story and no one else's.
Exactly.
And they're not here to write your story. You are.
Yeah.
And I think you have done an amazing job of standing up in the face of horrendous trauma And I think you should be very proud.
Thank you.
And I'm honored that you came here to share the story in hopes of inspiring others to stay strong, warning others that words matter.
Yeah.
And we can't judge people because we don't know what's going on. And hopefully also that we can all put a prayer up or a good thought that you will at some point have closure.
Yeah.
Because despite your mom's addiction issues, you loved her and she was your mom, and you want closure, and she deserves that too.
She does. And I hope that we get that. You know, I know she's in a better place, and that's also what keeps me going. You know, I know she's not in pain anymore. And so with that, you know, that's all I ever wanted for her.
Lisa, thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
And you still have so much to give the community.
Thank you.
And people love and adore you and see the power in what you've been able to achieve.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for being here. And thank you everyone for watching and for listening. I'm Carrie Pena.